Could I just call it by? Can I call it by title? Is your mic on?
Okay, we are returned from our executive session, which was 9.1. We now come to 9.2, which is the follow-up to our executive session. Do I have a motion? Yes, Director Chu.
Thanks. So I would like to make sure in completing our transition for superintendents and bringing in our incoming superintendent, we traditionally have a transition contract that helps us to ensure that that in addition to whatever other work they're doing, that they're able to also perform superintendent duties that go over and above and beyond. We've done this for the most of our superintendents in the past, and this should be no exception. So I would like to move that we approve the agreement between the incoming superintendent and the Bellevue School District as in our records.
I second your motion.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, the motion passes, and with gratitude, we thank our incoming superintendent. Okay, so we move now to item, I believe we marked it as 10.4, and I turn to our legislative representative, Director Chu, to talk us through some of the items we had talked about in our director discussion.
Okay, so we have come up with two potential positions that we could propose to WASDA to consider in their legislative platform. And I'm going to explain how the motion works, and then we can, I don't know if Joyce is back on or not yet, but I'll just explain the motion part, and then the substantive discussion can happen when everybody's present.
Okay, I do believe she's on. She may not be just on camera just yet, but I will look to Jess to let us know if we're having any challenges. Thank you.
Okay, great. So the way this works is that if we have a position. Sorry?
I was saying that I was here, but it didn't sound like you could hear me earlier. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the way this works with WASDA is if we want to propose something for the members to vote on to make part of their platform, we propose it in a certain window, which we just have a few more days left to that window. And in order for us to propose it, our board has to have voted and approved it. We can't submit it as an individual member. So it's got to be the district. So, but the way that it happens is you kind of submit something, and then if they have similar positions that have already been submitted or that they already have, they might say, hey, can you guys work together and put something together that's like one motion instead of 5? Or hey, our legislative, they have a committee has gone through this and reviewed it, and we really think that it needs some work because we're afraid of these issues, or you haven't addressed this, or so could you take a look? And so it often goes through some editing with other districts or with WASDA members. And so the way that I have brought these to the board in the past is I'll make a motion that we approve what's written and that we approve with the latitude for it to be amended within a certain scope. So I'm going to read that motion so we all know it's in the email message. I don't know if somebody wants to project.
Director Chu, can I make one confession? My edit came across incorrectly. I meant to modify the word Arabic, and I accidentally modified African. So
Okay.
it was written African American, which was just right, and I meant to modify Arabic to say Middle East and North African.
So we can definitely get there. I didn't put this in a document because we've been very engaged tonight. There really hasn't been time, and this was done last minute. So I appreciate everyone's indulgence. I don't know if somebody wants to project the email, but right now I'm just going to read the motion that'll be around these positions, these proposed positions, not the positions themselves. So the motion that I'm going to ask that we approve is that the Bellevue School Board approves whichever motion it is. We're going to look at one of them as a permanent position, and the other one we'll have to decide because Seema and I didn't discuss it. Legislative positions are ones that are very like shorter lived, but permanent positions are those that are the core values of WASDA. So the one that Jane is worked with me to put together is a core value piece about like curriculum should always be multi-heritage. It's not something that whatever. I don't know if the other one feels to me like it might be a legislative position. So it says the board approves the permanent or legislative position proposal to be submitted to WASDA, including any edits deemed appropriate by our legislative representative and backup board representative, and that are consistent with our BSD legislative priorities, any recent in the past 3 years board resolutions, and our mission, vision, values, commitment to equity and accountability, and strategic and annual goals. So that makes sure that we don't swim outside the lanes, but that we have some flexibility. So that's what we're going to ask for approval. And there are 2 positions. I think one is a permanent position, and the other one I'm going to recommend is a legislative position. And the proposed position, I feel like we should at least be projecting this somewhere. I just don't know that I am able to do that.
I can propose if you like. I put it just those 2 in an email.
Oh, could you project?
No, I was going to send it to Jess and have him try to project
Oh,
it.
sure.
Can just put it in a Word document?
Oh.
I can put it in a Word document, but I just worry about just time elapsing. So I think our key thing is to just project it. Is your desire for the Word document for editing or?
Yeah, I think it'll be faster than to, like I said before, than to try to describe where my edits are, but.
Okay.
I
can't hear other people if you're speaking. Go ahead, and I'm going to just try to at least get these off as quickly as I can into something.
Hey, Joyce, since you're a little bit more savvy than rest of us here, would you mind doing that on the Word document? Well,
yeah, I won't save it, I guess. I have no place to save it, but I can, yeah. Oh, I don't have a place to save it, so then you guys can't be in the document, which was part of the point. Is Jess able to save it someplace? I mean, if not, I'll just talk through
I'll try
my.
to see what I can do. I'm going to do the best I can here.
Seema's taking
Okay,
care
and
of.
then in the meantime, Christine, I had a question about the 3 years because I'm not that familiar with the resolutions that were prior to me and Jane being on the board in the last year and a half. So is there a, a reason for choosing 3 years?
It just seemed to keep us to recency. I doubt you would find anything offensive. Well, we've done it for many years before. Yeah, Shannon was saying that's what we selected last year as well when we approved these, and it's what we've used previous years. And it allows us to make sure that our resolutions have some level of life and that they don't die or that they're considered irrelevant in just a year or something, but that they don't live forever either.
Okay, I think I'm getting somewhere. About to send, I think, what is a live document, I think.
Thanks,
I'm going to go
Seema.
ahead and send it to the 5 board directors.
Awesome.
We'll see if it works. And I think I sent it to Jess too, so that you can project it. Just your patience with 1 second as I get into this. I've not hit send just yet because I'm sending the live link, which just takes a few more seconds, but I'm almost there.
Thank you. And actually, if we can just talk about one of them, or unless we want to have it up, but one of mine
I
is.
think I just sent a link. It has both of them. It just got a line between them. It doesn't have the motion language or it doesn't have that language, but it's got just the stuff. I will just, yeah, okay. And I have the Middle East and North African MENA in bold with parens. I'm not sure it's all needed. I just put it in there. We can always modify.
And one of my comments is sort of conceptual is that we've got people who are, sort of long-term residents in the United States who are not American citizens. And I know that there's been a lot of discussion for decades about the term Asian American, in part because not all people of Asian ancestry are American. And it's the same issue of African American versus Black people in America. I mean, and so that was one area that I was hiccuping a little bit over. Like, I agree with the concept, but I think in terms of the execution, we're talking about people with, ancestry from lots of different places and not necessarily about nationality.
Joyce, can I
Yeah.
comment on that? These are being written in rapid succession. I think your comments are fantastic. I believe that if we don't have something on the spot right now, right here, we've got a day or two before it has to go into WASDA, and it would be within the spirit of and I think the letter of the motion for us to
As
make.
long as we talk about it and that's what people agree on.
Well,
Yeah,
even
that's
without,
what
I think, yeah, I think it's fine to talk about it, but I don't know do you have the solution tonight? Because I don't know the right language, and I would have to do a bit of research to get that right.
Yeah, no, I don't have the language. That's why I said I want to speak conceptually.
Yeah, so I think noting that that's an issue is legit, and then we should just go ahead. If we choose to pass these, then I will commit to following up with somebody appropriate. I don't know if we have someone on staff or what that can help me, but to do that. Seema, I'm trying to edit the doc, but I opened it.
Okay.
Can anyone else edit?
Oh, that's a mistake. Okay, let me redo that. Dang it. Sorry, folks.
It's okay.
Okay, here we go.
Joyce, do you know a good resource to get that sorted out for the right language? I mean, I suspect our district has some good language.
I don't know a good resource, in part because there is some controversy, and just it's not well settled, I guess. It's not controversy, it's more that it's not well settled. People misuse the terms a lot, and even on the issue of African American versus Black people, because the history of Black people in the United States includes that they weren't always allowed to be American. Same with a lot of Asians. And so it is loaded. And then there are a lot of people who are in the US now who are not American yet. So
Kelly, is
Yeah.
there a resource that you know of that could help us with this language? I mean, we just had our EAG here. I don't know if they have resources or you know any. Or yeah, or find somebody to help us get the right language. I don't even need anyone of like, maybe they can point to, this is a trusted source, it is controversial, but this source seems to be, you know, most broadly accepted, or
Can I ask, is everybody able to edit now? Can you try?
let's try.
Joyce,
Maybe.
I recommended the Asian American and Native Pacific Islander because it is a term that is being utilized right now within a organization that is trying to lift the voices of that community, and create a legislation or trying to pass a legislation in Washington along with the various other states in this across the country to make sure that the lived experiences and the history of that community is being included in the curriculum in the public schools.
Yeah, and I remember that there's a state in the Midwest of all places that became the first to integrate Asian American, require Asian American history to be taught. And I guess my point is that we have an opportunity to be a little more broad-minded than using that term, because there are a lot of people who are, one word that I have used, and I might have even heard it used tonight, is people with Asian ancestry, people with African ancestry, that sort of approach. So I don't disagree with the concept. I just don't want it to be inadvertently exclusive to the people who did not ever attain citizenship, which is a lot of people.
So would this work if you were to say Asian American and Native Pacific Islander ancestry?
I think American. I think what I hear from
Or
Joyce is that
Asian Native Pacific
Asian
Islander?
and Native Pacific Islander. I wonder if you
Heritage.
need to say ancestry or anything. I mean, I
Ancestry.
think the point is that the people in our area come from all over the globe, and they have different backgrounds, and that those backgrounds are relevant to our history. It's part of our shared history, both in the United States and outside of it.
And I might say ancestry and culture, because the reason is because there are some people who the ancestry is the reason for certain, racial and facial expressions that then people react to. That's the race. And then there's the culture and the ethnicity, which has to do with Asian culture. And so it's both that I think that we should be addressing and recognizing. I think the problem with just saying Asian culture or Asian is that there are a lot of people who are of Asian ancestry who are not culturally Asian.
Can I make a proposal? Could I propose that Jane and Joyce coordinate after this meeting on the language for this? I'm happy to walk through the WASDA submission process, but if you guys would spend a day or two, like, to iterate and get this in a place that you feel, since it was Jane's idea and since you have all this valuable input, it might be great if you guys would just finish the cleanup together. Like, I'm happy to do it, but it seems like you both have a vested interest and experience to do it.
And then how do we then it's like the motion and a
Then
vote would defer to her and me kind of thing?
Yeah, we've actually done that in the past where we basically have high level approved something, and then others have sort of, with
the
a level
final
of
mile.
confidence and trust, you're not going to completely revise it. You're going to
Yeah.
make
And
minor
I've been
changes.
part of some of those votes. I just think that this one is really loaded because of the implications and the risk of leaving people out. But I'm happy to do that. I'm also thinking I'd like to.
My sense is that the timing is such that our window is narrow, and then it would allow the essentially proposer and the person who's brought up a great point to work it out. And I think our board is supportive of you guys doing that. So it makes sense to me.
Yeah, Joyce, is there a different proposal you would make and how we would address this? Like, do you have a different way
I'm gonna try to mark it right now, so, a part of it is that it's really complicated that we are mixing geography with race, with ethnicity, and so let me take a stab right now while we continue to talk. I can multitask.
But
Oh, you don't seem to be seeing my edits. Why is that? Am I in the wrong one?
I can't
think
edit
I'm
this
I'm putting,
document.
no, I resent it and I made sure, I swear I did it right this time.
I think I was in the wrong one, maybe. I think I was in the first one. Hold on, let me see.
And I
So
tried
I-
to put it in track changes too, so that,
Yeah, that is what I was doing, except that it might be wrong document. Let's talk about the other one first, maybe.
all right, so this was just a idea that where you have instruction, where technology is used, it should in tandem come with instruction around, a level of instruction around responsible use. Essentially grade appropriate instruction around responsible uses, potential harms, and essentially ensuring that over at the right ages, students are understanding about how to be good consumers of technology created information. So that's where the 3 sections come in. I just having seen the WASDA resolutions in the past, they all get often merged and changed anyway. And so I think it's not going to be the final word. None of these will. They are likely to become modified to gain acceptance. So I feel like a lot of it, and when Director Chu brought it up a couple weeks ago, I thought, why not put out some ideas of things that seem right, knowing that a lot of them don't see the light of day, as happened with our gun stuff for years. And they may end up becoming modified, but also enhanced with other people's input. So
Actually, I think the process has been changed a little bit. So if I don't think once we propose this, it doesn't get to be modified until next year, does it?
Right, but we
Yeah.
can leave, like, and once we propose it, they could send it back to us. And
Exactly.
then ask us to make modifications.
And then also, to gain traction with, let's say, the proposal from another district or another region's thing, we may end up settling on something that is essentially a merger.
Seema, what would you call your proposal? Technology, instructional supports for technologies?
Let me think of a title. I think it's, if I can, I'll let you guys talk about
Jess?
something else, and I'll just think of something, because it's about equipping students with awareness to use technology safely for their, academic and mental health success.
Joyce, are you on this?
I'm wondering, I was just gonna ask Jess, and I think the technology is a little bit weird because I'm either interrupting you guys or you guys don't hear me, so apologies for if I have any interruptions, but
We hear
is it-
you.
Is
We hear
it
you.
possible that, okay, I had said a couple things earlier that there was no reaction to, so I think that it might be not working entirely correctly, but I am not, like, I'm still getting a read only, and I'm wondering, just, is it possible that because I had it already opened, that I need to close out of it and
I think you
open it?
do. I sent a new link, and so I think if you look.
I did click on the new link.
There's a third link. She sent it.
Oh, there's
to
a
her-
third?
Like, just make sure you have I don't know. I thought there was like several. So that might help. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Okay, hold on. I closed out of it, but I lost all my changes because I had to close out of it. I'll come back in. But I think I might have a solution. Do I appear to be in the document?
Uh,
No, it doesn't look like it. Oh, wait.
yeah,
Oh,
you
it
are.
does.
You're in it. It says you have the document open.
Oh, now it's showing up.
Says you're
Okay.
on page 1.
Yep, okay. And then my other question about it is the diverse communities across Washington State, because we teach, although we do teach Washington State history, we teach US history too. So are we intentionally limiting it to Washington State?
I don't think that was entirely, so one of the things we modeled this off of is we modeled it off of a policy. The only position that WASDA has on this type of thing is about Native American curriculum. So we modeled it off of that and the way that that one was written to kind of focus on a heritage that should be integrated into curriculum.
Okay. What I might consider
It doesn't
doing,
have to be, and I think it would be better if you could make it more broad, because there's a lot of history that impacts us that is beyond Washington State. And so if you have a better phrasing or.
Yeah,
that you like
I
to
would
include.
prefer the
That's why I
broader.
brought up world earlier.
Yeah.
You
I
know, the
would-
context that people were coming from and that sort of thing.
yeah, I understand, Carolyn, what you're saying. Because the other thing is the other part that's political is the order. And I would suggest we start with Native American, as you see there, and then perhaps put the rest in alphabetical order. Would be politically the way that I would see it, is because, you know, there's so many foundational problems with, you know, what happened to Native Americans in America where we are. And so that would be my preference. And then the rest in alphabetical order. But does anybody have any thoughts about that? This is why I'm saying it's not that easy to just delegate, because it does have a lot of implications. And then Jane, can you explain I'm not as familiar with the Native Pacific Islander. There's Native as in Native Hawaiian or Native Tahitian, and then there's Pacific Islander as in like Filipino. So can you explain the political issue behind Native Pacific Islander versus?
I think you know what, we could probably Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander. I think I forgot the H. Yes.
Okay, great. And there too, I think that, you know, there is this issue of indigenous cultures all around the world. In India, in Taiwan, in Hawaii, you know, here in the United States, it's a particular type of issue. So I don't know if we want to put indigenous in too. I know it's late at night, sorry.
So I don't know that we need to go spell it out that in depth, though we do. It is a space that we do need to talk about in as part of the history. The reason I'm hesitant to go into that in much of a nuance is because we're going to forget something versus doing a certain amount of umbrella. Talking with people within that community from all the different areas, including the, whether they're the I think we may be segregating too much and then we're eventually going to miss out something.
So I'm gonna say something here. We want this to be correct, and we also want it to be passed.
Yep.
And right now, this is turning into something that has a high likelihood of not passing. Sorry, Carolyn? Oh,
Oh, okay. No, go.
so
I think let her just finish her thought, and then we'll make sure you speak next.
So I think the sentiment that we're trying to get across here is that our history curriculum, or not just history, our curriculum in general
It's not inclusive.
is not inclusive, particularly of the diverse set of peoples who occupy this state that the curriculum is instructing. And I think if you want to unify WASDA and not turn this into a political position, then you want to think carefully about how to state that, like, how can you help people see the importance of creating inclusive curricula? So I wonder, my opinion is we as a board are in favor of this. I believe that we're going to take a vote and we're going to pass this because we generally support the idea that curriculum should be inclusive. I wonder if we could maybe simplify this, pass it, and then ask you guys to do some work on it and just keep the spirit of what we passed and like not try to write it here on the spot. This is a hard thing to write.
Yeah.
These are subtle things that mean a lot to a lot of people. And I feel that our likelihood of getting it right on the spot in this session is low. So I wonder if we could just state what it is we really want it to represent, which is we want inclusive curricula that reflect the heritage of the diversity of people in our community, our state of Washington community, that might be enough. You might not even need to get all the rest of this in, but if you want to, then it's gonna take some work to get it right. So could we either simplify this or could we pass it and just pass it off to you guys to clean up?
I would say, for what it's worth, I would be fine with the latter because I have confidence in Jane and Joyce, knowing where I think they're, the alignment that we have. So I think it would allow maybe and it doesn't have to even be in real time. You don't even have to coordinate schedules. You could offer edits and then, on your own time, go back and forth. But I think we've got a couple days. But I tend to agree that we might come up with something better, not in the heat of with the pressure of it being after 9 o'clock.
And I think the
Director
focus is
Watson
the
wanted
word
to
that
speak
Jane
too.
used. It's
Director Watson?
Sorry, I'm getting very tired, so I'm sorry for raising my hand earlier, but I'm going to ask you something that I think they may ask you on the state level, which is like, why don't we have Swedish people in here?
I did put European in.
You did? Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's,
Um,
it's a fair point that if we list everyone, we will miss someone.
But
And
then if
then,
we do it by continent, I
Okay.
think that what I have
okay,
now,
that
if
could
you
be a
could,
good way to do it, yeah.
if you
because,
can look,
yeah,
if you can look at what I did now, we might be pretty close.
okay.
Because it gets across the concept initially, people with Native American, Native Hawaiian, and other indigenous. And then so highlighting that up front, because that is such an important part of what we need to recognize. And then the rest in alphabetical continental order, African, Asian, if I got it right, because it is late for me.
I think it seems like we're 90% of the way there, and that gives you guys space to do anything additional if needed. Does that sound good? Or,
Yeah, and I'm okay with it as is, unless you guys want to think about it more, or I'm okay with if looking at it here, going with the motion that Director Chu, that Christine, that you said, with the flexibility, because this addresses my concerns of not excluding people who are not American. And it addresses the Washington and the United States. It doesn't address the worldwide, but
yeah. The only thing I will say in favor of the American piece is the following, and it's maybe a variation on what Director Ara said, is I can just share the number of times that we as a family were asked, where are you really from, was high. And my mother experienced this all the time. You have an accent, where are you from? And that whole conversation it was like it was a game. I get it all the time with my name. And so it is saying you're not really American. And that's kind of where that all went. And so I can see the value of saying when people define American and then they look at someone whose ancestry suggests they came from the continent of Asia, that they're conflating one's ethnic origin or ancestry with their contribution as an American. So I can see why one would ground in the American, the question of it's not the number of years you've been here or your ancestors have been here, but it's the contributions and choices you're making. So I could see why we would ground that in that piece of it, is all I wanted to say. And I don't know that means we need to write something differently, but it may be relevant when you're explaining it later.
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned in the way we have named all the continents, because then this is no different than, or it could be seen as just world history. And so, whereas the point of doing this is to lift the voices of the history of the community that lived here and has contributed, and to acknowledge them, and also root our students in that history, that here is your history. This is more, and it's diverse and it's rich. And so by start naming all the different, or I guess by geographical whatever, you're starting to take away the American component. And so it is a little bit where it could be seen indifferently. So that is my concern with this. The ask that was brought to me was to lift the voices of our community. And so, I don't know, I'm concerned that this is getting very wordy and it's going to be taken differently, and then it's not going to pass.
All right, here's what I'd like to propose.
To talk for a second about the technology piece, if that's okay.
Actually, I want to make a motion and close on this one.
Oh, okay. I thought you were doing them together.
No, they're
okay.
separate
All right.
motions. So I'm going to move that the Bellevue School Board approves the comprehensive multi-language instructional materials permanent position proposal to be submitted to WASDA, including any edits deemed appropriate by our legislative representative, that's me, and backup board representative, that's Jane, and that are consistent with our BSD legislative positions, any recent past 3 years board resolutions, and our mission, vision, values, commitment to equity and accountability, and strategic and annual goals. Once I have a second, I have a comment.
Seconded.
Okay. I would like to just note that because we've had this conversation, we're not going to change. There'll be no difference in board action. I believe that it would be appropriate if Jane wants to consult with any of the other board directors to get this done. So because it's not a board action, we're making the board action now, and we're within the scope of the board action. We're empowered to make some modifications. So we'll bring it back as whatever is finally submitted. What I've done in the past is I just bring them back as information to the next board meeting and say this is what was submitted to WASDA.
Okay, before we take a vote, I see Vice President Shui's hand was up before your motion, but I thought she might as well come in at the discussion point. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to, I mean, if you want to stop discussion, then I will vote against because I'm not prepared to vote in favor right now. I'm sure that you guys will have the votes to move forward. But if you want further discussion, then I'll explain my viewpoint when it comes to integrating American. Well, I'll just go ahead and say it.
I think it's worth you sharing it because it's relevant no matter what on the edits.
Right. Okay. So thank you. The histories of the diverse communities across Washington State and the United States more generally grounds us that we're talking about people who live in these communities and we are part of these communities. And so the rest is talking about the ancestry or culture. And so if you read the way that I've redrafted it, it's acknowledging that there are people that live in our communities, including in Washington, that have these rich and diverse backgrounds. And it gets at the core of what we're doing without excluding people, because if we say Asian American, then it excludes a whole bunch of people and maybe some, of our own relatives who never became US citizens. And that's my concern with using the term African American or Asian American. But if you say that it's like all we people who live here, regardless of how many generations or how many years, and recognizing the rich diversity of background, I get exactly what you're saying, Seema. And of course, I'm no stranger to being asked where I'm from, but I believe that this language, as it's currently written, makes it very clear that we are part of these communities regardless of our citizenship.
I just added a sentence that I wondered if it might underscore the purpose, and
I like that.
we could actually remove it, but it might just close this piece just because we already have the word contributions up there, but it could be experiences and histories, and then you have contributions later. So as I was reading it, I was thinking maybe having a little more like belt and suspender on the purpose might close it.
Maybe the significant and diverse contributions, because it is that, I mean, that's part of the purpose, right, of this provision, I think.
Do we think we could take a vote now and have us all voting?
I'd like to hear from Jane, since it was her
Sure.
proposal, and see what she thinks, what's happening here.
Okay, so I think this is, I'd like to strike the word significant, because who's to say what is significant and what is not? This is, right now I feel a little bit, this is getting kind of complex.
But you want this, you were hoping we would all support it.
Yeah,
And so
I
do think
understand.
I would say it's kind of late in the evening, and it was an idea and director discussion. So I do feel we're actually making progress for the timing we had on this.
Yeah,
So.
well, you're asking my opinion, so this is my thought. The sentiment of bringing this forward is that, being a person, having children going through the system and watching and seeing things that is not necessarily shared, and in fact, as an adult, learning about our own history of Washington that I did not learn until as an adult, it's sad to me how much I have not learned as a child, and that could have, I think, helped define and help ground me even more and I think that is a sentiment I see within our students as well, when they see people who look a little bit closer to them within the education system, within the community, and hearing stories and so on. So in our effort to be more inclusive in our education, to make sure that we are really lifting all of our students to help them build that success, I was more looking at as how do we make that for all of our students in Washington. So that is that inclusivity is the thing that I was kind of coming from. I appreciate all the comments and all the edits in here. I think it's great. My thought that I'd like to throw back at you is, as Bentu Wazda and sitting there in the legislative session or decision making of our positions and seeing the discussions and the push and the pull, how can we make it simpler so it passes?
So I'm going to say two things. One, I'm going to withdraw my motion and allow Jane to make whatever motion she wants to make. And two, I want to say that I think you could put a period after Washington State or after in the United States more generally and put a small modifier on integrate the experiences, contributions, and histories of the diverse, like I think communities and cultures across Washington State. And I think you might have something that would get the point across without adding so much detail. So I don't know if that's what would suit you, Jane,
yeah.
but I wonder if we should just give some space to this and do what Carolyn suggested in the first place and just jump to the other position.
Okay, here's my thought. I too was the legislative rep. I don't remember things super short of 2 lines. And I don't think if it's too brief, it will actually have much traction. I recall what we did on other things, and they explained enough to be able to make people think, well, now this is really meaningful. So I think having it have the intent and the purpose could be actually valuable. So I don't see it as super long. I do appreciate that there's a list, and I think, but I think if we look without the track changes, it doesn't seem like the list is that long. I'm going to try to look at it without it in my version.
And can I say that part of the point of listing is that people will see themselves there? And I agree that maybe if you, I'm not sure whose screen is being projected, but if we accept, oh, I guess anybody can accept the changes to show.
Yeah, I didn't accept them. I just showed in my own personal view. I looked at it without them just to see how it looked to me, but I didn't. I think it's just as it's projected. I don't know that we should accept the changes yet because I think it's still being.
But I think that we can do it for purposes of looking at it. And then just do a. Is that Jess moving?
Yeah, it's just who's got.
I guess what I'd like to say, to echo what Seema just said, is that I do think that there's a lot of value in this discussion. It's too bad we couldn't have this discussion at like 2 PM, but I think that this discussion has been really, really valuable. And it to me accomplishes getting the point across that there are people in our community in Washington and the United States more generally who have all these different ancestries. It identifies the many different places so that people can see themselves in each of the different continents that their ancestors or may come from. And it doesn't limit, which was my original concern, in a way that people felt like, well, I'm not Asian American, I'm Asian Canadian, but I live in this community, as some of my relatives are actually. So I even think about them. They've moved to the US from Canada and then they're not included, but that wasn't our intent. So that's why I wanted to accomplish all those goals, which I think accomplishes the really important goals, Jane, that you've identified of making people, giving people, all kids, an opportunity to see themselves in our history books and in our curriculum, while not excluding the people who have Asian ancestry but are not American. Thank you, whoever accepted them, just for purposes of looking at.
He didn't accept it. He just showed it without markup.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You can see it.
But this concept of what's written there, I could vote in favor of, because it's, as I said, accomplishing all those goals, and I would be comfortable giving then authority and discretion to you guys to further tweak it, knowing that I don't want to exclude non-Americans of Asian ancestry. But Jane, I agree, it's your motion. Unless I can't tell whose motion is out there actually. If was there one Jane, one
If
amended?
we're hoping to do it as all 5 of us, I mean, I think if what I see right now seems pretty good to me. If others are good with this, do we want to move this forward and consider the next one?
So I was going to say, I know we're working hard on the words, but I agree with the general sentiment, if that's helpful. Uh, It's just I'm getting
So
so
can we make that motion of what's there with discretion to Christine and Jane to tweak it as necessary, but without losing the identification of, well, I don't know. I appreciated the motion that Christine, you made and then withdrew, which I think was based on the revision, but maybe I misunderstood what you said.
All right, I'll motion to, how do I say this?
Just say, I move
The-
the motion.
I move the motion for the comprehensive multi-heritage instructional materials proposed permanent position.
I'll
A second. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries.
good.
All right, we move to the equipping students with skills and tools to safely navigate technologies. This is a legislative position rather than a permanent position. I think 3 years seems reasonable, so I don't have an issue with it not being a permanent position. If others have comments,
Yeah,
let's just go with it.
Yeah. I'm trying to get back to where I was looking at it. Okay, so I guess I'll be okay with it being a legislative position, but I am wondering, that's the kind of thing that if you get traction on it, you can perhaps renew. And the reason why is I know we're talking about our current technology and the things that are going on right now with malware and the social problems that it's causing and so forth. But it's point number 3 about the misuse of technology in the form of disinformation, misinformation, and forms of technological deception. I think, we are thinking about those AI things that can doctor pictures and so forth. But I really want the kids to learn this piece about how to identify disinformation and misinformation. And I think what got to me in terms of like how long-term this position could be is that it's just, when you're talking about technology and its use in disinformation and misinformation, that goes back to the invention of the printing press. I mean, this is, something that happened in World War II, and it's something, that's just been happening all along. So I would just love it if our kids could come out with some kind of ability to analyze and figure out when people are giving them propaganda. But we can't solve the whole world with this. So, but I just wanted to put that idea out there that I'm not sure that this is just a short-term thing.
So Carolyn, Seema, I did not mean to imply that the legislative positions are limited to 3 years. They're limited to like the kind of, they seem more generational, frankly, to me, because they will be passed for like up to 5 times or 4 times, and after the 4th pass, then they become a permanent, or then they become a standing legislative position, and so they stick around. This is how we got comprehensive safety done, and then once people kind of had messed with it a couple of years, then we were able to get that into the permanent positions, and people recognize the importance. So it's kind of the journey that a lot of these things will take. I think the curriculum one, though, is like so clearly like it's very much like a one on Native American. So I thought that one would just go straight to permanent with. But I think it does have the opportunity to do what you're asking.
Are there thoughts or edits?
I
like
think
it.
we need sorry, Joyce, I'm sorry.
Sorry. do we have a motion?
Well, you mean, oh yeah, to enable discussion. I move that we adopt or we enable, we vote to, the motion, yeah, that we approve the equipping students with skills and tools to safely navigate technologies as a legislative position proposal to be submitted by WASDA, to WASDA, including any edits deemed appropriate by our legislative representative and backup representative that are consistent with our BSD positions, any recent, as well as past 3 years board resolutions and our mission, vision, values, and commitment to equity and accountability and strategic and annual goals. That's my motion.
I like it, so I don't have any, discussion of anything. The only grammatical thing I was wondering is if technology should be a plural with an apostrophe afterwards. But I can go with it the way it is.
In
that third line around technologies with a possessive, but then.
Because it's technologies, it was intended to be possessive for.
Yeah, the possessive I get, I just
use.
was not sure if it should be plural because
Oh,
there are
I
lots
see.
of different technologies, but I can go with singular.
That's fair. Okay.
Well, I can go with it. I wasn't sure.
So I don't know if you guys are looking at me. I was waiting to see if there's any discussion for proposed edits. If there's not, okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
So before you close, I need to ask that each of you who have proposed this, I'm going to need from you a small paragraph that makes the case for.
Sure.
If you could just send me that in email by Saturday so that I make sure we get this in time, that would be awesome.
Okay,
Sorry,
sure.
what was that, Christine?
I'm asking that the people who proposed these, like the initiators of these proposals, would give me an argument for to put in the WASDA handbook with them when I submit it. There's like an argument for, like, why
Yeah.
would we want this position? That's all.
Sure. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.